And to align with the new tax architecture, if you want to export more than 25% into the customs territory, please be prepared to pay your duty in full. I thank you for joining us today at this important virtual stakeholder intervention. We felt it was important to gather our private sector. You're the reason why we're here, and to dialogue with you as we close out the year and as you start off your strategic planning for 2026. So under the leadership and bold reforms introduced by Mr. President, Nigeria has entered a new era of fiscal discipline, regulatory clarity, and economic modernization.
To get the NEPSA benefits in NEPSA zone from 2026, do investors have to export 75%? Could you clarify if there's a cap of 75% so that everybody's on the same page?
As the legal advisor knows, from January, I already told the Free Zones Association that regulation will be revoked, and it is being revoked. And to align with the new tax architecture, if you want to export more than 25% into the customs territory, please be prepared to pay your duty in full. I see a question in the chat group: why is the registration fee charged in USD? And I just wanted to speak to that because it borders on, there's already a CBN regulation on not dollarizing our economy. However, the free zones are outside of the customs territory. So technically, a free zone is an entity that is no longer in Nigeria. That's why anything produced in the free zone has to pay customs duty to come into the customs territory. So it's actually not in Nigeria. It's a tool for diversifying and accelerating exports, oil exports, non-oil exports. So that is the objective of the free zone, and that is the priority of the regulators of the free zone, to make sure that we're an export-led economy. So it's an aberration to be producing in the free zone and then exporting into the customs territory in its entirety. We can take up to 25%, but duties will be paid, and in actuality, operators in the free zone should face the export market, because otherwise it will distort the domestic environment. So just going forward, part of what this session is telling all stakeholders is that this is a very important element to clarify to everyone, that the free zones will now operate as they are meant to. Will focus on exports and diversifying our exports, our economy, to AFCFTA, to ECOWAS, to the rest of the world. And so anyone wanting to go into the free zone should please prioritize exports. If not, you will pay duty and you will lose your free zone license.
And at what point is custom duty paid? So once you raise this custom duty now, there are a lot of questions on that as well. Is there a place for MSMEs in the NEPSA?
Let me quickly take that one, and then I'll leave to NEPSA, just so I don't hold court for NEPSA. But I do know, having toured some of the free zones, that there are some enterprises in the free zones that have shared facilities for MSMEs to come and take up space to manufacture. So they're building bespoke production facilities where MSMEs can take up space to produce for exports. And so that's an opportunity. So NEPSA will be able to tell you and link you up with those types of facilities where you don't have to set up by yourself. You can just take up some space in an enterprise and produce for exports. Thank you.
There's a question for the Honorable Minister. Is there clarity now on the implementations of eligibility of goods produced within SEZs in Nigeria for tariff exemption under AFCFTA, one exported to ECOWAS region? Previously, they said ETLS, the goods were produced within Nigeria's SEZs, are not eligible for tariff exemption. But so what is the current status?
They're exempt, and we're going to bring out clear guidelines, because I've gotten this question from one or two companies, feeling that they're made non-competitive in the sub-region. And so we're going to bring out clear guidelines explaining how they are exempt and making sure that they are competitive in the sub-region under ECOWAS and of course through AFCFTA. But with AFCFTA, we're actually the whole of ECOWAS is part of AFCFTA. So really that supersedes, and we're definitely pushing market access and competitiveness for the Nigerian economy. That's the top priority of this administration. So we bring out the step by step so that every business will see and know how they are competitive and they get those incentives under AFCFTA.
Great. There's a question about the legislation clarifying if the free trade zones are governed by CAMA, and they just want to be clear on that.
And just to say that as the legal advisor of NEPSA mentioned during her presentation, that act is currently being reviewed and it's being aligned with the new, with AFCFTA, with the new tax architecture. And so do expect renewed or modernized legislation for NEPSA in 2026.
I think I just wanted to highlight that there's still a few questions about when the 25% is going to apply for existing customers who are already in the zone, especially those that want clarity. Businesses who have been in the territory, who are already exporting and have established businesses. So is there a timeline to the communication, company secretary? Is there when this will be in effect? You can give Q1, you're not on the spot. I see her looking, smiling. So just a few other questions before we round up. I think there's a lot of sort of unclear. So just
I can give Q1
sure.
because it's a ministerial regulation. So let me take that off her. The regulation will be coming out in Q1 of 20. It might even come out by the end of this year so that we align as the tax architecture comes into force on January 1. But I told the entire ecosystem in January of 2025, we engaged. Mr. Oyedele was also there at their conference in January this year. We discussed it and I made the announcement that 2022 regulation will be revoked. And so we've given a year's notice, we've engaged on it, and it will by January of 2026. That will be the position. The Tax Act has already ensured that it is 25%. The current NEPSA Act and regulations cannot override legislation. It's an aberration. The 2022 regulation is an aberration because it can't override a legislation. And so what has been happening has not been the correct, legally speaking. And so we're correcting the entire environment. That's what we discussed in January with stakeholders. So we'll have a situation where there's transparency and there's clarity. And that's exactly where we're heading to in 2026.
Thank you so much. So as we round up, we thank you so much for this informative session. It has raised a lot of questions. I can see that the ecosystem is engaged. They want visibility. In fact, we have one saying, thank you, Honorable Minister, on the intervention regarding building of industrial parks in the economic zone. We are asking for more visibility on the communication. This should be loud, and this was his view, or her view. So we have a lot of the right target, the right people who are speaking on the zones, on the customs, on the duties, and are looking forward to the growth in 2026. So thank you so much to the NEPSA team for sharing and for being here today. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rando. Thank you, everybody.